welcome to the Ripple webinar. And yes, I'm Sarah Merrick. I am founder and CEO of Ripple. So yeah, welcome. We're really pleased to have you all here today. So I'm going to be just give you an overview of what's going to happen in the webinar. So I'm going to explain how Ripple works, and then what the benefits and the bill savings are and how the bill savings are calculated. I'm going to introduce you to sorry, let me just check this. Then I'm going to introduce you to Kirk Hill wind farm, and then there'll be a Q&A at the end as well. So I can't, there's obviously loads of different bits of Ripple, so if I don't cover anything in the presentation, do just ask a question later on. That's exactly what the Q&A is here for, and then the whole thing will be recorded, or is being recorded, and will also be posted on our YouTube channel in a day or so. And then we've also got our customer service team will be on chat until about 9 or 10 this evening. So if you've got any other questions, you can always just go onto our website, and our team there will be happy to answer any other questions that you've got, basically. So let's just start the presentation. Let's just check it's all working. So Ripple's mission is to make clean energy ownership affordable and accessible to everyone, everywhere, basically. So this is Stefano. He's one of our let's get that there. He's one of our Ripple members already. So he's got a Tesla. He's got an EV. He lives in London. He wants to really act on climate change in a genuine and really tangible way. But he also wants low and stable electricity bills. Now he's looked into rooftop solar. It's quite expensive, and actually for Stefano, his roof isn't even suitable for solar because he's got some windows in his roof. And also having rooftop solar can just be a real hassle. You've got to have scaffolding on your house, and yeah, it's you've got to have surveys, and it's just quite a lot of hassle getting it installed. So Ripple enables you and people just like Stefano to act on climate change in a really tangible and impactful way, but it also enables you to have low and stable electricity bills for the wind farm's 25-year lifetime. And best of all, it's just really easy. So we make it all super simple for you. So what Ripple is a green energy a green energy ownership platform. So what we've basically reinvented green energy ownership. So traditionally, you would have a big wind farm that would be owned by a big utility or a pension fund or an infrastructure fund. That would then generate electricity that would be supplied to the grid to loads and loads of different homes. And you as a consumer, you'd just get the electricity supplied to your home, and you just pick up the bill at the end of it. Well, what Ripple's done is we have reinvented clean energy ownership. So now everyone, no matter whether you're a individual household or a small business, everyone can own their own source of clean power, and then you get the electricity, the green electricity that your little bit of the wind farm generates, supplied to your home via the grid by our utility partners. So you have your own source of low cost, stable priced green electricity for the long term, which is just a really incredible thing. So what Ripple does is we secure consented wind farms, and then we set up an ownership co-op, and then you buy shares in the ownership co-op. And then Ripple manages the wind farms build and operation on your behalf. And then our supply partners supply your electricity from your wind farm to your home via the grid, and then savings get applied to your electricity bill each month according to how much your bit of the wind farm has generated and what the market electricity price is in that year. So we make it just super easy for you. We're the wind farm experts, so you don't have to be wind farm experts. We take care of everything on your behalf, basically. And what's really important to understand with energy is large-scale projects are just so much cheaper than small-scale projects. So what Ripple does is we basically, for a single turbine can generate enough electricity over the course of a year to meet the electricity needs of around 2,000 households. So that's a huge number of people can be supplied by a single turbine. What Ripple does is we bring together those thousands and thousands of people into a single really powerful unit. So they've got the buying power of the likes of a big utility, and by coming together we can make them a far more powerful entity than they would be on their own. So that's the real value that Ripple brings to the market. So in terms of how you can join Ripple, we've just got a few questions coming in. In terms of how you can join Ripple, so the first thing that you should do is you can just go onto our website, is to read the share offer document. So this is a document that sets out how the co-op works, what the benefits are, what the risks are, just how the whole thing fits together. It's a really important document. We do recommend everyone reads it before they buy any shares in the wind farm. Obviously, coming onto this webinar today is a really good first step as well, but it will be there's a lot more information in the share offer document than we can sort of get across today. So do please read the share offer document. And then when you're on the wind farm, you can, or when you're on our website, sorry, you can just decide how much you want to own. So the minimum is £25 worth. That's not going to buy you very much of the wind farm, so it won't generate very much clean electricity, but that's the minimum. And then the maximum you can own is the amount of the wind farm that, given your electricity consumption, would generate all of what you use plus 20% more. So the maximum is 120% of your consumption. And then you can just use this slider, you just move the slider up and down, and it shows you if you want 50% of your consumption covered by your wind farm ownership, how much that would cost and how much you would save, or you can just set your own budget. So if you say, okay, I want to spend £500 in the wind farm, you can just go into there, set your £500 budget, and then we scale the ownership for you based on that, basically. And then you can, once you've decided how much you want to own, you can just decide, do you want to pay in a one-time payment or do you want to pay over 12 months? So click one-time payment or 12-month installments. There's a little bit lower arrangement fee if you pay in a single installment, but basically it's just really easy. So yeah, you just decide how you want to pay, and then you can complete the actual purchase in just a few minutes. We need your address, your name, and yeah, and then we just set up the payments. It's very simple. So Ripple delivers real benefits to its members. So obviously you're owning a part of a wind farm that's going to be generating zero carbon electricity for 25 years. So you're having a real carbon impact. You're making it happen, and you've got a lasting impact for 25 years. Obviously, as well as that, you get lower and stable, more stable electricity bills because you're owning your own source of green power, which has low and stable operating costs. So the cost of running a wind farm is low and stable. It doesn't matter what's happening in the energy markets. The cost of operating the wind farm remains stable throughout its 25-year lifetime. And basically, Ripple puts you in control of your clean energy future. You own your wind farm. You can stabilize your bills, and then you can really stabilize your household expenditure as a result of that. And it's just no hassle. So we take all the hassle out of energy ownership. We take care of everything for you. You just sign up, and then there's nothing more to pay for the lifetime of the wind farm. It's just about getting your savings applied to your electricity bills from then on in, basically. Now, in terms of how wind farm ownership delivers that protection from energy price spikes like we're going to see at the moment, I'm going to explain it. There's quite a few graphs, but I've tried to keep it as simple as possible because there are some really important points to understand in terms of how your ownership can help protect you from price spikes in future. So the first thing to understand with Ripple is basically your bill savings are the difference between the market's electricity price, and that goes up and down each year. So it's a difference between the market price and the wind farm's running cost. So the wind farm's running cost stays broadly stable. It's not fixed, but it's broadly stable throughout the wind farm's 25-year lifetime. But the market electricity price goes up and down all over the place. So your savings are the difference between the electricity price in 1 year and the wind farm's operating costs for that year. So if you have a low power price year, like it was in the first lockdown back in 2020, power prices were very low, your savings are lower. However, if fast forwards 18 months and we are now in a really high price period where electricity prices have gone through the roof, with Ripple, your savings would increase as well, because the cost of operating the wind farm hasn't really increased over that time, but the power price has increased. So your savings have increased massively. And when we've seen this, when we launched our very first wind farm back in 2020, it was in a very low price period. We were expecting customers' savings in that first year of operation to be around 4 pence per kilowatt hour. Since then, by the time we actually were able to signed the power purchase agreement for the wind farm, prices had increased massively, and so the savings that our members of Greg Vather will be seeing in their first year of operation are actually 9.5 pence per kilowatt hour. So that's more than double what we expected in the first year. Obviously, in future, if prices come down, or when prices come down, hopefully, their savings will come down too. But it's really, really important to note that your savings are directly linked to the difference between the market price and the low and stable running costs of the wind farm. Now, another really important point to note is all of our estimates on the website and in the share offer document are based on the government's power price forecast. Now, these were set, we used the most recent ones, but they haven't updated their numbers since December 2020. So all of our numbers are based on these numbers that were set back in 2020. And you can see broadly, we base most things off the central, but just to sort of give you an idea of the sort of range, there's a high scenario and there's a low scenario. So broadly, you can see here that your savings, again, will be the difference between that purple line and the green line, which is the wind farm's operating costs. Now, we've increased the price in the first year of operation just to reflect the price coming down from the really high prices where they are at the moment, but we basically assume from 2025 the prices get back to that level that the government forecast them to be back in 2020. Now, as I said, current electricity prices are way higher than this government forecast that we've used in all of our estimates. So they're up there in that that's that grey dotted line in the orange circle. We're expecting in all of our price forecast, we've assumed that prices shoot back down again, so that by 2025 they're basically on the line that the government was forecasting back in 2020. If, however, we're not saying it will happen, but if prices did stay at that level, obviously your savings would be much larger than what we forecast or what we've estimated in the share offer. So we've had some questions from people saying, why electricity bills really, really high, but you're only suggesting my savings are going to be, relatively modest. That's because we've assumed the power price is going to be relatively modest throughout the wind farm's life. If they stayed at the current high levels, your savings would be higher, but we haven't factored that into our forecast because we just don't know. We don't expect it to stay at the current level, and the wind farm won't start operating until the end of next year as well. So, but that it's an important point to note. Now, in terms of how wind farm ownership can protect you from price spikes, so here we can see this was back in 2020. We're expecting wind farm ownership to save our members around sort of £114 per year. Since then, electricity prices have increased. So for a non-Ripple member, their electricity price would have gone up by, £220 or more. Ripple members' electricity bills would have gone up by just around sort of £40, just over £40. And this is because there are other non-electricity price factors in your bill. They've gone up, and that's why our members' bills have gone up, but by far, far less than a non-Ripple member. And this is, we can't fix your bill for 25 years, but we can sort of protect you from the very worst impacts of volatile electricity prices. So the result of this is that the members of Greg Vather in the first year, so this is not forever, but in the first year of operation, they are set to save, typical household would be saving around £275 off their electricity bill in the first year. So we don't know what the price is going to be the following year, but for the first year, that's what the saving is expected to deliver. Going back to Stefano, he owns more than the average because he's got to power his EV. He's set to save nearly £750. So he's pleased as punch about his wind farm ownership. Now, obviously, there's real climate action impact involved with owning a bit of a wind farm. So Kirk Hill Wind Farm is set to save around 12,000 tonnes of CO2 every single year. That's a really big impact that you as a member will be directly enabling for the long term, basically. And obviously, you own this wind farm. We want you to feel, genuinely, you really are one of the owners. So we want you to, be as aware of that as possible. And so we want you to be able to see how much your bit of the wind farm is generating in real time, at all times. So we're developing an app. It's under development, so it probably won't look exactly like this. But so we want all of our members to be able to see how much their bit of the wind farm is generating in real time, and then over time, we want to be able to incorporate data from their sort of smart meter, so you can see, okay, my wind farm's generating this much and I'm using this much, or I'm using this much and my wind farm's generating that much. But so you can just see at any point in time how much your wind farm's generating. Just like if you had solar panels, you can see how much your solar panels are generating. We want you to feel really, really part of it, because you genuinely are part of it, basically. And also, yeah, it's just super easy. So you can just go onto our website, you can read the share offer document, you can see all the details on there, and then signing up literally just takes a few minutes. Now, Ripple itself, we've got one farm that's been built already. So Kirk Hill is our second wind farm. Now, Greg Vather, it's built, so it's about to start generating. In the next 2 weeks, we're expecting it to get connected to the grid. That's owned by 900 members, and those members are all around the UK. So we've got people like Matt and Dave, they're from London. And we've got the Wilsons, so they want to own part of the wind farm because they've got a new family. The baby was a few days old when this picture was taken. And we've got Mel and Marion, and they want to power their EVs, just like Stefano. They want to power their electric vehicle with clean electricity from their wind farm as well. We've got Eleanor, she lives in a flat, so she can't have rooftop solar because she doesn't own her own roof. So she's absolutely thrilled that she can own a bit of a wind farm on a lovely windy hill in South Wales, and then she gets the benefit of the ownership direct. And then we've got the Bonds as well. So again, they want to power their electric vehicle with clean electricity from their very own wind farm. So there's a huge range of people from up and down the country. Some live near the wind farm, some live in Scotland, some live in London, all over the place. It doesn't matter where you live, everyone can be part of Ripple and own their own source of clean power. Now, the really, really exciting bit, this is Kirk Hill wind farm. So like I said, this is Ripple's second wind farm. Greg Vather was 1 turbine. Kirk Hill is going to be 8 turbines. That's 8 2.35 megawatt turbines. So each turbine is around 115 meters tall. That's when the blade is at the very pointing straight upwards. And it's located just south of Ayr, so in southwest Scotland. So you've got Edinburgh and Glasgow, you can see on the map there, and then it's just in the southwest of Ayrshire. Now, the timeline for Kirk Hill to come to fruition is the share offer is open at the moment, so we're planning on closing the share offer in March 2022. Then there'll be lots of work on site to get the wind farm built. That includes track works, digging the foundations, getting the grid connection ready, getting the control station, the control building rather, built. And then we're expecting the first turbines to be arriving on site next summer, and then we're expecting generation to begin I've coded up in November 2023. And it's after the wind farm starts generating, that's when you start getting your electricity bill savings, because your bill savings are directly linked to how much your bit of the wind farm generates. So if there's no generating because it's still in construction, there's no savings. But so as soon as the wind farm starts generating, that's when, or the month after, that's when you start seeing the savings on your electricity bill. Now, we're really, really pleased to be bringing on new supply partners for this next project. So for our first wind farm, we partnered with Your Co-op Energy, which is powered by Octopus Energy. So we're currently working with E.ON Next and So Energy in anticipation of bringing them on board as supply partners in the next couple of months. And then for businesses as well, we're bringing on Unify Energy so that businesses can also be join the project and be supplied by Unify Energy as well. So it's a really, really exciting time. And it means that if you're a member of the co-op, you can choose which one of our supply partners supplies your electricity from your wind farm to your home. You can choose whichever tariff you want to be on. So there's loads of flexibility. You're not tied to, if you start with E.ON Next, you're not tied to E.ON Next for the wind farm's 25-year lifetime. You can switch between all of our supply partners over the wind farm's life to give you real choice. Now, you don't need to switch to one of our supply partners just yet. So you need to be switched to one of our supply partners by the time the wind farm starts operating in late 2023. Now, we'll help you to switch to one of them when it's a better time to switch. So we're recommending people don't switch now. So because energy prices are so high, if you switch tariff, you could lose the protection that you get from the energy price cap. So we're saying don't switch now. Once it's a better time to switch, we'll be in touch sort of towards the end of the year, and then you can switch on our website. We'll just say these are the supply partners that you can switch to. These are the tariffs, and then we can help you do the switch really simply. So you don't need to switch now, and we are actively recommending people don't switch just right now. And then if we look at the ownership structure of the co-op, so we're intending to have a co-investor. So the co-investor will own around 30% of the wind farm, and then the co-op would own 70%. So you are a member of the co-op and you own the wind farm via the co-op. So you own shares in the co-op, and then the co-op owns shares in the wind farm. So that's how the ownership structure works. And the co-op is it's fully democratic. So, you know, each member, it works on a one member, one vote basis. So we have an AGM, there's a board that's elected by the co-op members. So each one of you would have a vote in deciding who the co-op board directors are. And then if there's an AGM every year, you know, obviously you get votes in the AGM for the really important crucial parts of decisions that need to be made. Now, the co-op itself, the co-op rules have been approved by the Financial Conduct Authority, and you can go onto the FCA's mutuals register, and you can see there's a link on our website as well. You can see the co-op rules. Now, the shares in the co-op, they're withdrawable, but they're not transferable. So you can only transfer them to somebody else in the event that you pass away. So you can't sell your shares to somebody else. But if you know, say you move to America and you don't want any, we don't need any green electricity in the UK anymore, you can withdraw your membership, withdraw your shares, and then you would get back the residual value of those shares minus an admin fee, basically. But because so Ripple is not an investment vehicle, it's really, really important to note that, and that's partly why we cap the ownership at 120% of your energy needs. You can't own 5 times as much as you need because it's not an investment vehicle, and as a result, it's not covered by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme either. And we've had a few questions come in about repayment of share capital. So each year the co-op aims to repay 5% of your share capital, and this is part of your savings. And this is to ensure that you know, you're buying into a physical asset. So, you know, just like if you have solar on your roof, the value of those solar panels reduces each year as its operating life is sort of used up. So the value of your solar panels after 20 years is pretty tiny compared to what it would have been, you know, when you first, they were brand new. Similarly with the wind farm, as the wind turbines operate for longer and longer, they've got less operating life left to go, so the value goes down. And so it's just an accounting mechanism to account for the reducing value of the asset. So if you buy 1,000 shares, you still own 1,000 shares or 1,000 watts in the wind farm, and you still get all the savings that that those 1,000 watts of the wind farm generates. It's just that the value of the 1,000 watts that generates that has gone down, because instead of having 25 years operating life in front of it, it's now got 20 or 15 or 10 years. So yeah, it's an accounting mechanism rather than a, you know, reduction in how many shares you, in how many watts you actually own. So the wind farm itself is already 48% full. So we launched it to people who reserved last week and then to the general public this week. So we're really, really pleased with how it's going. We've got a big advertising campaign planned for Scotland that starts next week. So there'll be billboard adverts in Scotland, and then there'll be some direct mail in Glasgow as well. So we're really, really excited to have, yeah, telling the world about Kirk Hill. And yet there's 3,000 members already. So again, we're really, really pleased with just how many people have got involved with the project so quickly. So yeah, so we would love, obviously, for you all to join us. So whether or not you want to own a bit of a wind farm to act on climate change, or to ensure, you know, you've got protection from energy price spikes going forward, we would absolutely love you to join. So if you have any questions, and we've also, I should say, we've got 3 very, very short polls, which I will launch now. So they're just very, very quick questions. And I will, so while you're answering those, we can go to some questions, I think. So I'll get the questions up. Here we go. Okay, I'll have a look at the questions here, that's fine. So how many turbines will there be? So we've answered that, there's 8 turbines. And then what happens if the wind farm operates for more than 25 years? So if, again, because you own that 1,000 watts or whatever in the wind farm, if it lasts for 30 years, you still get 30 years of electricity from your 1,000 watts. So it's yours for its lifetime. We expect that to be 25 years, but there is, you know, a decent chance it could last for longer. If it lasts for longer and it operates for longer, then you would still be getting your share of the wind farm's generation each month. Someone said, I can see how the investment benefits the investors, but how can we be sure the wind farm isn't just displacing other investment? So, I mean, this wind farm is being built by you know, the funds that go into the co-op are directly enabling the wind farm to be built. So yeah, it's having a really big impact. Is there any way you can monitor generation and production in real time? So yeah, that'll be on the app, as I said. So we're planning on launching it for when Greg Rather starts operating in a few weeks' time. So it'll be probably a more basic version then, but you know, we plan to sort of evolve it and develop it over time. But yes, we absolutely want everyone to be able to see how much their bit of the wind farm is generating in real time, just like you can with rooftop solar. Do you expect government subsidies to help pay for the project? So no, we don't expect any government subsidies. So we're not planning on being involved in the contracts for difference or any other subsidy regime. And then will you be selling the green certificates, so the REGOs that go with the green power? So you basically get the REGOs that you're, obviously they're via your supplier, but your supplier has your REGOs, which makes your green electricity from your wind farm. That's what makes it kind of like officially green. But yeah, you get those, that we're not sort of sold to anyone else. And then what happens if you don't sell at all? So so if there is a sort of slight shortfall, and this is something that we did for Greg Rather as well, we had a debt facility, so that if there was any sort of shortfall in the funds raised, we could draw upon that debt facility as well. So we would plan to have a similar thing in place for this one as well. Are there any ROI stats from the first wind farm yet? So not yet. So it's because the first wind farm hasn't started generating yet, and it won't do for the next 2 weeks basically, or 3 weeks. We haven't got any stats yet from that, but I guess the main thing to note is that, you know, when we launched, prices were very low. Now that the price has gone up, the savings that each member will get will be significantly higher than what we expected to begin with. Got another question here: what happens if I die? So if you die, your shares can just be transferred to somebody else. So when you join, there's a part of your on your dashboard, you can nominate who you would like your shares to go to in the event of your death. And unfortunately we've had to do it twice already, but it is a very simple it's a very simple thing for us to do. So there's no, you can just say who you want them to go to, and then that happens. Do you have to change to Octopus Energy, or are they recommended? So like I said, so we're not suggesting anyone should switch supplier now. Octopus Energy, if you're already with Octopus Energy, you can stay on your tariff, but like, as we said, so we're bringing on new supply partners as well. So that will be, we're anticipating for it to be E.ON Next, So Energy, as well as your co-op energy, which is powered by Octopus. And then in terms of the co-op share that's been done to date, that's 49%, so that's already covered. And then we've got a question about the maintenance costs being covered by inflation. So all of the forecasts that we have, all of the estimates, the financial estimates we have, they're all in real terms. So you know, if the electricity price increases in inflation, then yeah, you'd get sort of a small bit of inflation from the on the OPEX as well, but the two would kind of work together. Is there a maximum limit on the number of shares you're allowed to purchase? So somebody's planning on buying an EV. So like I said, the maximum you can purchase is the equivalent that would generate 120% of your consumption. Now, if you haven't got an EV yet, but you've put an order in for one and that would increase your consumption, then you can just get in touch with us and say, look, I've ordered an EV, it's not going to come for 6 or 9 months. I estimate I'm going to be driving 10,000 miles a year, and it's a whatever, ID3 or Leaf, and therefore I expect it to use this much. As long as you can just show us, you know, we're very reasonable, as long as you can just show us evidence that, yeah, there is a reason why your consumption would be higher than it currently is, then we can work with that. That's no problem at all. if I have solar panels, can I still join? You absolutely can. So loads of our, I think Mel and Marion actually, who we featured early on, they've got solar panels. Lots of our members have solar panels on their homes as well. And it works really, really well. So obviously solar generates more in the summer, obviously less in the winter. Wind generates less in the summer and more in the winter. So it can actually complement solar really, really well. So you still get all the savings from your wind farm, whether you use it or not. But in terms of, having a good source for the summer, but, wind's particularly good for domestic consumption patterns, because you tend to use more electricity in the winter, particularly if you've got a heat pump. You have a higher demand in the winter, and that's when wind tends to generate a lot more in the winter as well. But yeah, absolutely, we have loads of members who have got solar panels and they just top up their consumption. So the solar generates an amount and they just buy the difference from the wind farm as well. I take it the share ownership is tied to the owner of the shares, not the address. So yes, that's correct. So if you move home, these are your shares, and they if you move home, all you do is you tell your supplier, just like you would when you move any other time, tell your supplier, I don't live in that house, I've moved to this house instead. And then your shares, you still own your shares, and then your savings just get applied to your new electricity bill in your new home. So the only problem would be if you move to Northern Ireland. So Ripple doesn't operate in Northern Ireland, but as long as you move within England, Wales and Scotland, then yeah, your savings just go with you. Or obviously if you move outside of Great Britain, then you would need to withdraw your shares as well. If you were moving away for like a year or two, you could decide to sort of forego your bill savings for the time you're away, and then pick it up when you came back. And then during the time you're away, your bill savings, instead of going on your bill, they would be paid to the wind farms community benefit fund. So that would go towards sort of longer term fuel poverty measures and environmental measures in the local region. And then once you came back, and you could say, actually, here's my new address with my new electricity bill, then you could just get your savings applied to your bill when you come back. What happens if I invest at 120% and my lifestyle changes, like retirement or less commuting, and my electricity usage drops? So if your electricity use increases, so you go and buy an electric car, say, and your consumption increases, then you can just tell us and show us your new consumption, and we can increase your cap. We don't do the same in reverse. So we don't sort of check up on you and make you sell shares in the co-op if your consumption reduces. So it can go up, but we don't make it go reduce down if your consumption falls. So you can keep the shares that you start with, but if your consumption increases, then your 120% cap can increase as well. Are there benefits for the local community and the general population or taxpayer from the project being funded other than lower CO2? So the wind farm itself pays the local community benefit fund. So this is a fund that's set up, and there's input from like the local community councils in terms of how that money is spent. So the wind farm would expect to pay around £5,000 per megawatt per year. So that's nearly £100,000 per year in community benefit fund. And yeah, we're in contact with local community councils about how that money is spent. But yeah, exactly. So that's a huge benefit for the local community. And then the general UK taxpayer, they obviously the wind farm pays business rates and all other taxes that that any wind farm would pay. Got another question. So yeah, just to clarify that last question, if you don't use all of your electricity from your if you don't use all of it, you've bought at 120% and your consumption reduces, you still get all the savings related to your consumption, even if you haven't used that electricity. So you don't, because your savings are driven by your generation, not by how much you use. Even if your consumption falls, or you go on holiday for 6 months, or it's the summer and you don't use so much electricity, you still get all the savings related to your generation, whether you use it or not. So, effectively your supplier would still buy your electricity from your wind farm, but they would just be selling it to somebody else, but they're still buying it from you at a sub-market price, so you still get the benefits. But yeah, it's you never lose out any of your savings. You always get the savings from your share of the generation. What happens if we sign up for 100% of the predicted bill, but okay, that's covered already. And again, what happens if the share of the generation is larger? Again, you never lose any of your savings. It doesn't matter if you don't use all of the electricity, it just goes to somebody else, but your supplier has still bought it cheap from you, so you still get the benefits on your bill. If I own a few wind farms that collectively generate more, it's another thing to point out is that you can own multiple wind farms. So we've got members of Greg Vather that, you know, maybe they weren't up to their 120% cap with Greg Vather, so they own, myself included, you know, I own a bit of Greg Vather and a bit of Kirk Hill as well. So you can own bits of lots of different wind farms. So, you know, Ripple will be doing, you know, project after wind farm after wind farm, maybe a solar park, maybe an offshore wind farm. So you can own bits of all of them and build up your ownership over time. It's not like, you know, you can only be a member of one co-op. You can own bits of lots of different wind farms or solar parks over time. All of those savings from all of the different wind farms would just go as a single line item on your bill, and then you'll be able to see a breakdown of what's happening with your wind farm or your solar park or your offshore wind farm on your dashboard. So yeah, there's huge flexibility in terms of the different number of projects that you can get involved with. How many members are corporate energy companies, pension funds versus home users? So at the moment, all the members, so there's 3,000 members, they are all individuals. We are expecting some businesses to join as well. So small businesses can join and be a member of the co-op. And then if you're a larger business, like the big co-investor, then you could become a co-investor and as well. So it kind of depends what yeah, how big you are, but yeah, at the moment it's all households who are the members. Will Donald Trump see it when he's playing at Turnberry? We're not sure about that, but it is very close. Why is there a delay between March and July? I think that's relating to the timeline. There's no delay, and there are different, we didn't want to sort of say every single thing that's happening during the wind farms build, but yeah, I think it goes from the control building being built and the grid, and then to the wind farm, the wind turbines actually being delivered. So there's not a pause or anything. And then what happens if the share offer is over or undersubscribed? So the share offer can't be oversubscribed. We only sell shares up to the watts of the wind farm that's available. And like I said before, if there is a shortfall, we would look to get some sort of debt facility in place, like we did for Greg Vather, but we didn't have to use it for Greg Vather. Was Greg Vather completed in budget and on schedule? So it was on budget. There was a slight delay in terms of getting the grid connection ready. So the turbine went up. It was built exactly when we said it was going to be built, but it's just there's been a slight delay in getting the turbine connected to the grid. So it's there. It was built end of November, beginning of December, and you can go on our website or on our YouTube channel, or you can see there's a fantastic fully charged episode where Robert Llewellyn was on site when the towers were going up. So there's a lot of videos that you can see it being built, but there was a slight delay in the grid connection rather than the actual build of it. And then there's a question about EVs. Who is the co-investor? So the co-investor is sort of it's a company called Bruntwood, and that's all set out in the share offer document. Yeah, if you're, as I said, if your consumption increases, so can your we can increase your cap over time. Basically, all you need to do is you just email us, or you can upload some documents straight onto the website. It's very, very easy to do. And then, does the wind farm get curtailments or benefit from a contract for difference? So there's no contract for difference on the site, and this is because, so with a contract for difference, if the electricity price increases, you have to be above your subsidy strike price, you have to pay back the difference. But we want our members to benefit from high prices, so we're not in a contract for difference for the project. And then in terms of curtailment payments, we don't expect there to be significant or very much curtailment at all. It would only be if the substation at Mabel is having some maintenance undertaken that there would be any curtailment. So, I've just remembered I'm going to do another poll. I can't see that. Okay, I won't do another poll. And then is that 48% of the 70% co-option, and that's 48% of the whole thing, including the commercial partners bit. Is the price per kilowatt fixed for the whole 25 years? So that the price per kilowatt is the price of that capacity in the project, that capacity of the wind farm construction cost. So once you've built the wind farm, obviously we don't need to build it again. So your pounds per watt, that watt will last for 25 years. So yeah, it's the construction cost rather than a sort of ongoing cost. But we expect the operating cost, so the running cost of the wind farm, to be, it's not fixed for 25 years, but as you can see on the on those graphs, it's pretty stable. So there are things like maybe the land payments may increase a bit, or obviously we can't tell what happens with business rates and things like that. So it's very, very stable throughout its 25-year lifetime. What is the plan to onboard further energy partners? Are you speaking to major players in the market? So yeah, we're in discussions with a number of other energy suppliers as well. So we expect to bring on, we expect the maximum that we want to partner with to be 8. So we don't want to be partnering with every single energy supplier in the country. We think 8 is a kind of a good balance between giving all of our customers a really great choice of supplier, so they've got a really good number of suppliers to be choosing from, but we don't want to be working with absolutely everyone. So we plan to sort of cap it at around 8. That's our current thinking. What happens in a particularly windy year or a non-windy year? So again, if you read the share offer document, if it's everything is based on the P50 wind assessment. So this is like in a year, like an average year, how much would the wind farm generate? 50% of the time it would generate more than that level, 50% of the time it would generate less. So if it is less windy, obviously your bit of the wind farm generates less electricity, and so your savings would be less. If it's a really windy year, your bit of the wind farm would generate more electricity, and so you would get more savings. So yeah, but we've based everything on the kind of like the P50 is the sort of, it's not an average, but it's a bit more technical than that, but broadly, half the time you'd expect output to be higher and half you'd expect it to be lower. I'm with Octopus Energy. Are they supported? Yes. So if you're with Octopus Energy, you can stay on your current tariff and then your savings get applied. The only Octopus tariff that isn't compatible with Ripple is the Tesla tariff. So all the other tariffs are fine, but the Tesla tariff is sort of structured slightly differently. So you can't be on Tesla and I can stop sharing actually. You can't be on Tesla and join Ripple because the payments don't work out. Will we be able to visit the wind farm once it's running? So yeah, there's a public road that goes through the wind farm, but the wind turbines themselves are on private land. So so you can't go onto the land. I mean, you've got sort of right to own, but yeah, you'll be able to see them very, very well from the road that goes through through the middle. But we would want to have some sort of celebration event once it so that's fine. What if the wind farm was damaged by a storm? So wind farms are covered by insurance for all sort of expected events, and so if there was damage, then you'd expect that to be covered by insurance. What do you see as the biggest risk? Is it Ripple going into administration? So no, I don't think that would be a risk, particularly because Ripple doesn't own the wind farm itself. It's the co-op owns the wind farm. Obviously, the risks are set out in the share offer document. So they include electricity price risk, wind risk as well. So if say the electricity price is very low, obviously your savings would be lower, but the flip side of that is your bill would be lower as well. Obviously, if it's not a very windy year, your savings would be lower as well. So that is another risk. But again, the flip side is if it's a windier year, then your savings will be higher. Will there be an API to see generation data then requiring an app? So this is something that we're looking at. maybe. We don't want to promise it yet, but it's something that we are yeah, starting to work out. Okay, how does the app work, and what other things can we sort of start to integrate into the service? And you know, our team is really keen to hear suggestions from members. So if you would be desperate to have an API so that you can, you know, feed it into your home energy system, you can just let us know, and then we can take that into account when we're developing all the web services as well. What happens if Ripple itself has financial trouble, or if there's a time when all suppliers become unavailable for some reason? So like I said, Ripple doesn't own the wind farm, so it's the co-op that owns it. Ripple is a sort of managing agent for the wind farm. So we do all the admin and we engage with all the different contractors, but we don't own the wind farm. And then if there was a time when suppliers all became unavailable, I mean, you'd have to stick, presume this is, I'm speculating here, but if there were no energy suppliers in the UK, I mean, it's hard to envisage a situation where that would happen, but you know, there are lots of provisions in place. Generally, if your supplier ceases to trade, you sort of stick tight and you get supplied, you know, you get transferred to another one. So the same thing I think would happen. There may be a bit of a delay in terms of your savings sort of following you on, but again, all those savings would still be, you know, it might be that they stay in the co-op for a little bit until we can, you know, track you back in the system. But again, you wouldn't lose, you wouldn't necessarily lose the savings. There would just be a sort of delay in terms of getting them to you. If we move house, does the benefit move with us? And if you downsize, does that make a difference? So no, if you move house, like I said, it's fully portable, it goes with you. And if you downsize, no, it doesn't make a difference. You can keep the watts that you own. And yeah, more turbine, again, more projects. Yes, you can be involved in more, but I should note your 120% cap for how much your bit of the wind farm can generate, that applies across all the wind farms. So you can't like stack them up and have 120% from one, 120% from another wind farm, and 120% from another. Your cap is kind of across all your Ripple projects in total. So yeah, you've got a single cap, and all of your ownership kind of fits under that cap, rather than it being a separate cap for each wind farm. And yeah, so will it be possible to buy extra shares once the wind farm is live if shares become available? So yes, what we will do is for the people who have moved to America and have withdrawn their shares, there'll be a waiting list, and you'll be able to apply for more shares. So say you have bought an EV or something and your consumption's gone up and you're like, oh, actually I want some more shares. You can go onto the waiting list and say, okay, I want another 500 watts or 800 watts. And then if somebody withdraws their share, we can then, they withdraw their shares, we can then make available new shares. Also, those watts can then kind of be freed up for other people to buy shares for those watts. So yes, absolutely, there'll be a waiting list once it starts going. So I'm on, so if you're on Octopus, any Octopus tariff, like I said, except the Tesla tariff, works with Ripple. That's fine. Who provides energy when the wind is low? So in the event that it's a very still day and there's no wind, your electricity supply would just be getting electricity from other sources. Likewise, if it's really windy and your bit of the wind farm is generating way more than you're using, your supplier is just supplying your electricity to other customers that they have. You still get all the savings, but it only has to equal out kind of over the course of not have to equal out. The savings get applied on a monthly basis. So yeah, you don't lose any savings if you don't use the electricity, and you don't sort of yeah, you just never lose any savings. That's fine. Is it possible to purchase shares for a community-owned village hall through its management committee? Yes, that would count as a business, so you would have to go through the business page on our website, but that's fine. And then we just do it. Simeon, our business development manager, he will just take you through the process. It has to be done manually, as opposed to being the sort of self-serve option that we've got for other people. Is there any chance of partnering with Ecotricity? So potentially, yes, if they wanted to be one of our partners, would be obviously more than happy to discuss with Ecotricity. Can my daughter inherit the share? Yes, exactly. Sorry about the typos, that's fine. And then I'm with Marks and Spencer's Energy, who are supplied by Octopus. So there's any Octopus supported tariff except the Tesla tariff. There's no need to switch. You can get your savings applied to your bill when the wind farm starts operating. That's fine. I've already purchased 120% installing an air source heat pump. So yeah, if you install a heat pump or you buy an EV, you can just increase your cap. That's absolutely fine. What are your assumptions behind your forecast for electricity generated? So the when we forecast, well, we didn't forecast, the estimate of how much electricity the wind farm will generate is based on independent wind analysis, and that's based on, I think there's 2 years of on-site wind measurements. So that's done by an independent third party, expert wind assessor, basically. If the government changes the way green levels are applied to electricity, how will this affect the scheme? So it wouldn't affect the scheme at all. All it would do, and it's a bit like, say, the £150 council tax rebate or the £200 reduction in bills that's being applied to bills at the moment. You still get all of that saving. So because that applies to your bill, you get all of your wind farm savings, and then if your total bill is reduced by £150, or you get your council tax rebate or your £200 loan from your electricity energy supplier, you still get all of that and you get your wind farm savings. So all it would do would reduce all of those other benefits that the government is planning on bringing in. They would reduce your total bill. So if your bill goes from like £1,000 to, what would it be, £650, and your Ripple savings were £150, your bill would go down to £500, as opposed to if your bill was like £1,000 and they didn't do all those sort of support mechanisms, you would just get your £150 saving off your bill. So it doesn't, any sort of other mechanism that the government brings in wouldn't really affect your savings. It would just reduce your initial bill, and then your savings would be applied to that bill. And then, yeah, in terms of the co-investor owning 30%, so the decisions would be done on a proportional basis. So the co-investor would have 30% of the votes. What are the tax implications involved? So we understand that of your savings, so part of it is that repayment of share capital, and part is your it's called the trading benefit of being a member of the co-op. It's the trading benefit would fall under your interest allowance. So that's either £500 or £1,000 per year. So if your trading benefit was less than your and you were still underneath your interest allowance, then you wouldn't have to declare anything in a tax return or anything. Can you tell us about the contractors building the wind farm? So we have, yeah, again, that's set out in the sheriff document. It's probably easiest to read it in there. But yes, they're all very experienced parties doing all of the work. And then if it makes sense to repower the wind farm, what would happen? So repowering is when you, at the end of the wind farm's life, you take those turbines down and you put up new turbines instead. So if that happened, the co-op would need to work with the landowners and try and secure new planning permission, because you would need new planning permission to put up new turbines. And there would need to be a new share offer to raise the capital to be able to build those new turbines. But that would be, again, that would be a decision for the co-op to take, and that would be done. Pardon me, that would be done, yeah, perfectly democratically. And then, can the beneficiary be split between two people in the event that somebody dies? At the moment, there's only room for one person. We've only got one nominee, but we've had this question raised by somebody else. It would be very easy for us to include a second nominee. So it's sort of, it's on our roadmap of things to do, but at the moment it's not possible. There's only room for one name on there, but we can change that. Yeah, a recording will be available. That's fine. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and then we'll circulate it on we'll circulate it to everyone via a link that registered as well. So the repayment of share capital, I think we've gone through that. Just trying to see if there's any other. Are the savings paid equally? That's a good question. Are the savings paid equally throughout the year? No, they're not. So they're paid based on the previous month's generation. So you would expect your savings to be lower in the summer when the wind farm's generating less, and you would expect the savings to be higher in the winter when there's more generation. So but again, you know, if your bill, I guess if you've got a fixed direct debit, but you know, it generally would quite well reflect your usage as well. But no, so the savings are calculated monthly and they're applied to your bill the month after the generation. So so yes, you would expect fluctuations throughout the year depending on how windy it's been the previous month, basically. If you have a second home, can you buy a second share? Yes, you can, but you need to be named on the electricity bill for both, and you need to have 2 different email addresses. So but yes, you can. Can more people join the co-op and buy out the co-investor share? So no, you can't. So the co-investor would own those shares. I'm already a member of Greg Bathert, so how does that work? So yeah, if you're a member of Greg Bathert, I am too, and I've got shares in Kirk Hill as well, and that's absolutely fine. So it's just that 120% cap applies across both projects, not I can't remember what the word is, but you know, you don't get 220% caps. It's across the 2. Will the owner of both farms get 2 different credits? So no, you would get 1 credit on your bill that would reflect your savings from both, but then you would be able to go onto your dashboard and see how that was split between the 2 different projects. And then why is there 120% cap? So we've set the 120% cap primarily so that, you know, it's quite a subtle, but it's quite an important point. Ripple is, you know, people are members of the co-op in order to collectively access low-cost green electricity. It's not an investment vehicle. So if you could own twice or 3 or 4 times as much of the wind farm as you need to meet your electricity consumption, that would be a lot more like an investment vehicle than collective green energy ownership. So it is quite subtle, but it is a really, really important point as to the structure of the co-op. If the buyer's current electricity has to be verified, how's that done? So if you have to verify your consumption, so if your consumption is more than 6,000 kilowatt hours per year, you just need to upload some like a copy of, or you know, you can do a picture of your bill or something just to show us, yes, it's this, or you know, if it's lower but you've just bought an EV and it's on order, then you can show us that EV. But we are very we're very flexible. We just need to have verification that yes, you do need that much. When are you planning your 3rd project? So we'd hope to get another project launched before the end of the year. And yes, there's insurance for the wind farm. Is there an option to donate? This is a good question. Is there an option to donate some or all of my savings to a charity? Yes, there is. So again, you'll be able to nominate for all of your savings to go to the community benefit fund if you wanted to, regardless of whether or not you've moved out of the country, or you could decide you want half your savings or whatever different amount you want to go to the community benefit fund. So the rules of the co-op allow that to happen. We need to get our tech platform ready so that it can, but certainly by the time the wind farm starts operating, yeah, we would expect you to be able to go onto your dashboard and say, I nominate 30% of my savings to go to the community benefit fund. And then, yeah, if you stop using electricity and it drops so much that your bill would become negative, it would just be the equivalent of like paying too much for your direct debit. So it would sit on your account and then your supplier could just return it back to you. And yeah, the business share, the co-op businesses who are members of the co-op will get the whole of the co-op is 1 member, 1 vote. So whether you're a business or a household, you get 1 member, 1 vote as a member of the co-op. And yes, it'll be on the YouTube channel. a turbine was recently destroyed in a storm, what happens if to your wind turbine? So the turbine will be insured against all those sorts of damages that can, very, very unusual, but can potentially happen. Will you be partnering with M&S? So if you're already with Marks and Spencer's Energy, then you can stay on your current tariff. Yeah, API, we're planning that. I think these are most of the questions that we've had. When will production of all 8 turbines be complete? So in terms of the energisation, that's what we're planning, November 2023. So they'll be delivered to site, and then they'll be put, they'll be erected. It only takes, it's surprising how little time, given how long it takes to get the site ready for the turbines, to actually get the turbines, once they've been delivered, get them up. It's just a matter of days for each turbine. So that bit is actually the very, very quick bit. And exchange rate risk. So no, we would look in the exchange rate. So yeah, what plans do you have for more wind farms? So like we're in discussions about other wind farms that we would hope to launch later. I think, are there any mid plans to offer expanding to other markets? Yes, exactly. We love our model so much. We want consumers across the world to be able to own their own source of clean power. So we are absolutely planning on bringing Ripple's model to other markets around the world. Not just yet, give us a bit of time, but yes, it's certainly in the next years, we absolutely intend to be operating in other markets as well. If you buy shares, when does the money get taken? So if you pay in one instalment, that money comes out of your account straight away. However, you can choose to pay in 12 monthly instalments, in which case the money comes out of your bank over 12 months. Yeah, loss of earnings from an outage, we would expect there to be insurance to cover that. I think that's probably it. So if I haven't managed to answer all of your questions, do please you can email us at info@rippleeng.com and we can answer them, or otherwise you can jump onto the chat and we'd be more than happy to answer them now as well. So people will be on chat for the next hour or two. So yeah, thank you very, very much. And this will be on our YouTube channel in the next couple of days, once we've just had a chance to take out the first bit where there wasn't anyone, when everyone was muted. But yes, do catch it up on YouTube. And if you have any questions at all, do please just jump on chat or email us, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you've got. So thank you very, very much for your time, and yeah, look forward to you all joining Kirk Hill. It's a really, really exciting project, and we are just so thrilled with it. Thank you then. Okay, bye bye.